Hello again, everybody, and welcome back for a new season of You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling. And it's going to be a weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes from the betting perspective. And Lee's with Paramount Sports, and any needs that you have throughout this football season for your sports wagering activities, don't hesitate to give Lee a call at 1-800-400-9741. He's got all kinds of different packages that he can offer you, and maybe help you make a little bit of money. And Lee, Mario Cristobal's making a lot of money. I know that, the $8 million man. So it's only fair that the Canes fan get to participate in this festival of riches that is taking place at the U with the massive investments in the football program. They're raising 100 plus million for a football facility right now. All kinds of other enhancements. You got John Ruiz, so I'm sure you've heard his name, talking about building $1 billion stadium at Tropical Park. There's money everywhere, Lee. So show it to us. Show us the way here, starting with tonight's show. All right. So in all seriousness, we're sitting here. It's the season opener. Last year, we're getting ready to go to Atlanta to play Alabama. It was a marquee game. This year is a little different. We got a season opener against Bethune-Cookman. We'll talk about the crazy line that's on that game here in a moment. But most Canes fans that are betting right now, I think are pondering the over-under. Do I go over or under the number, which at most sports books is 8.5 wins? Okay, I'm jumping all over the over. I'm bullish on the over. I think 9 wins is about the right line for this team. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a 10-win team. So 9, okay, but I think they can split. Texas A&M or Clemson. I think this shines off Clemson a little bit. And A&M early in the season, they got 3 quarterbacks. I know they're going to start. They've defined their starter, but it could be Johnson by game 3, the transfer from LSU, and that's where Mario does his best work as an underdog. I mean, just look what he did against Ohio State. Yeah, he loves that challenge, and that typifies what Miami football is all about. Anytime, anywhere. So I like that they brought that back, and probably if you're looking at everything, the development of the team, coaching staff, I think it's top 3. The investment, which is important, they're going to dump in 15 to 20 million into the football program, which should have happened earlier. And the kids that are recruiting, you see the kids that they signed this year and then for next year. Just looking at them, they look like Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia recruits. We couldn't say that before. So I was a straight shooter. I didn't like what I saw last year. And, sure enough, it ended. The greatest thing that might have happened, and I hate to say this because if you're a Florida State fan, you're still reveling in the win last year. Them beating Miami I'm like 95% sure. That's what certainly closed the door on Mario.
Absolutely. You could be 100% surely.
Yeah. Okay. 99.9. But that certainly put the nail in Manny's coffin. So that loss, Florida State fans, Miami could win 9 of the next 10 games. I hope they enjoy what they had in that win because it's all changed since then. So I like the over 8.5. I think they're at least a 9, maybe a 10-win team this year. If everything goes right, no injuries, maybe 11 wins. But probably go undefeated is not being realistic. So I'm excited. The only 2 positions I'm a little worried about are at wide receiver, but it seems like in the last couple of days I'm hearing that the outside receivers, not the slot receivers, have come on. So that's a really good sign. And linebacker. So they should be improved with a couple of these transfers. They really only play 2 linebackers most of the time. they tackle a little bit better, fine. If not, that could be a little bit of a liability. But the defensive backfield, I mean, what we're seeing with these kids, there's a bunch of kids that look like they were going to hit the transfer portal, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And now looks like they're players all of a sudden. Just shows you kids are finally being coached up. Look what happened. I mean, every kid except for Ford that was in a camp this year got cut. Just shows you the talent. They didn't have it. They didn't have the development either. So it's going to be a lot of fun the next, hopefully, decade.
All right, so just as a little note, you mentioned Texas A&M, Max Johnson possibly being the quarterback by the Miami game. He's the nephew of Mark Richt, and I've heard that Mark Richt's already making plans to possibly be at that Texas A&M Miami game in College Station. It's going to be a fun one, no doubt. But that's jumping weeks ahead, Lee. We have this week that we got to make it through and figure out first. And so you and I are both in agreement that Canes take the over, the 8.5.
Take the over.
Now, the first question I have in that regard is, and I'm sure you take a look at what your fellow sports handicappers around the country are saying about different things like that. Are you seeing that as a prevailing opinion about Miami, that people are bullish on these Mario Cristobal-led Hurricanes?
Oh, very. I mean, I haven't heard one person say anything negative. I mean, do I think he's a great game day coach? Maybe not. I think he's average at best. But Butch Davis was a very average game day coach, and look what he built and where he was when he left. So if you got the better players, you're gonna and these kids are getting coached up, you're gonna win 9 out of 10 times.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is you did put a qualifier in there. And you said, if everything goes perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay. When does everything go perfectly, Lee?
Almost never.
Miami's
had more bad breaks than almost any team. I mean, the injuries seems like we've had more than most, over the years. I'm not saying, decimated by injuries. Schedule's tough. I mean, obviously you're playing – 2 top 10 teams to start the season. Although I think both might be a little overranked. And then also, if you're going to catch A&M, time to catch them is early, I think. Their defensive line, I mean, they got like 6 5-stars there. Mm-hmm. They're going to be really good. So we want to catch them now. And then by next year, hopefully we've matured and we have some new talent coming in. And it's going to get better, I believe, as do most people. So
what would your over-under be for Texas A&M?
I think they're at 8.5, Texas A&M, but they've got a tougher schedule. So playing in a tougher conference, that side of the SEC is absolutely brutal. I mean,
tough, yeah.
Some people have LSU picked for second to last or last. So it just shows you, how tough that is.
Well, we're not going to ask you for your pick on that Miami at Texas A&M game for a few more weeks. So we'll let you stew on that one. All right, we got Miami, Bethune-Cookman this weekend, season opener, Hard Rock Stadium, 3:30 in the afternoon. The odds makers actually put a line on that game, and it's, I believe, 45.
Yep.
Okay, Miami's a 45-point favorite on Saturday. Tell us a little bit about how a line gets set for a game like this. Like how do people figure out where that threshold should be when Bethune-Cookman is coming to play Miami?
So most FCS teams, they just power rank them. There's not a whole lot of tape on them. So it really depends on, obviously, how well Miami plays and how long they keep their starters in. And I got to think, this is a hunch. I'm not betting the game. Also, when you play games like this, where a normal college game, let's say, like Utah and Florida this week, you can bet 5 or 10,000 almost every sports book or offshore. A game like this, you can't bet more than 1,000 most places. So if I had to take a side, I'd take Miami. I think Mario wants to make a statement, and we have the depth now. Looks like we've got 10, 11 kids on the defensive line, whereas we didn't have that. I think they're going to interchange a bunch of kids there. And, I think we might get either a special team score or a strip sack, something like that, or an interception for a touchdown. I just think it's a different level of talent. I know these kids that go to the Florida A&Ms, that go to the Bethune-Cookman, I see them at different level. So I'm going to take a shot for the sake of the show. We'll lay the 45 points here. I think Miami wins this game something like 61-7.
Do you actually bet a game like this yourself?
No. I very rarely bet games above 30 because what happens is there's, the question, like for instance, Alabama, a lot of times their games, it just depends when they're playing a nobody or Utah State like this week. When do they take out the starters? That's really pretty much how you're basing your decision. So, if maybe Nick Saban is playing a former coach that used to be on his staff, sometimes, he might take it easy on him. But I think Miami wants to make a statement here. So, if this game was next week, maybe, and I'd seen the teams play, maybe I might think differently, but I would probably shade Miami here.
All right. Before we move on to the best games in college football this week, I want to ask you about prop bets like Heisman Trophy odds. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the odds for this year, and CJ Stroud is plus 200. Bryce Young, who won last year, plus 350. Caleb Williams, plus 700. Tyler Van Dyke is the number 11th favorite in the Heisman odds. They've got him at plus 4,000. Two questions.
Yeah.
Do you bet prop bets like this? Who's going to win the Heisman? And would you bet at plus 4,000 on Tyler Van Dyke?
So I've seen anywhere from 30 to 45 to 1. No, because I think it's really pretty much a two-man race this year. Will Anderson might be the best player in the country for Alabama, but they're probably not giving it to a defensive player. So they would probably have to go 11-1 or 12-0 for him to have a chance. And the chances of that are very, very small. So
they've got him at plus 2,000.
Yeah.
That could be the best value pick.
Maybe. I really don't bet that, when, I bet overs and unders on teams. I think I have 6 bets in college football and 6 in the NFL. Remember, they're holding your money for the whole season. I want to win, but very few people like to wait 5 or 6 months to get paid. So people bet it. People take a shot. A couple people I heard bet $1,000 on Utah State to win the national championship.
I saw that. Explain that one to me.
Well, if they beat Alabama, then, who knows? Then maybe they can win a bunch of games, but then they'd still have to win the semifinal. Well, they'd have to go undefeated, get into the playoff, and then win 2 games, which wouldn't happen. So I just don't like wasting my money here. I think it's a two-man race. Alabama, and Ohio State have the best quarterbacks, in my opinion, and they're probably the best 2 offenses and best 2 teams. So they're who you want to put your money on, whoever you like.
All right, James Spencer, stay away from the crazy props.
Right.
Don't waste your money betting on Tyler to win the Heisman. Take Lee's advice. All right, there's the typical opening weekend in college football. Some really good games to watch. I think one of them, Notre Dame at Ohio State, might be being played at the same time as Bethune-Cookman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But let's start. Let's pick out 3. We'll isolate 3. Notre Dame at Ohio State. Great opening weekend matchup. Your thoughts on that game?
So you're hearing a lot of positive stuff about Marcus Freeman, and I think he's a good coach. And you're hearing about their recruiting. You're not hearing anything negative. But let's look at their roster. They lack speed. They don't have a quarterback. And what are the 2 things that Ohio State has? They've got a quarterback and they got plenty of speed.
Yeah.
They might have the best quarterback in the country, might have the best receiver, got a couple running backs that are better than anything Notre Dame has here. So another thing also, a lot of people don't realize, new defensive coordinator for Ohio State, Jim Knowles, comes over from Oklahoma State. Who did he coach against in the bowl? Notre Dame. Prepares for the same team again. So you got to study these little nuances. They can make a difference here. I like Ohio State. Notre Dame just, when they're matched up against the big boys, have not fared well over the last decade. I think Ohio State wins and covers 48.
That's a nice little nugget you came up with there. That's why you do what you do. What's the line on that game?
Line 17. Yeah.
Ohio State 17-point favorites over Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Wow. But you're taking Ohio State.
And Notre Dame is a top 5 ranked team. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
Yeah.
That is a crazy line.
What's Notre Dame going to do? What are they going to do when they fall behind by double digits, Gary? Can't just run the ball. They got to throw, and they couldn't throw last year. They're going to be even worse throwing the football this year. So in a couple of years, Notre Dame might be good, but not right now.
That's a crazy line. Yeah. That's a lot of points.
Yeah.
But you're laying them, huh?
Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it, Gary.
Yep. All right. I'm with you. All right. Utah at the Florida Gators. The Gators paid Utah $500,000 to come to Gainesville and play this game.
Yeah.
Utah gave Mario Cristobal fits last year. They're a better team, Lee, than people give them credit for every single year. How does this game play out?
Well, I think it was a combination. I think Mario knew he was coming, and I think the players had kind of found out, or they just lost their edge, and that happens. Utah is generally, here's my pause. Utah is generally better as an underdog. But when I'm looking at this game, outside of Anthony Richardson and a couple DBs, Florida doesn't have a whole lot of talent here. Utah's a much better team here. Unless Richardson throws for like 280 to 320 yards and runs for close to 100, I can't see him winning this game. They have some really good skill players in Cam Rising, quarterback, 20 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. Tavian Thomas, here's a guy a lot of people don't know about, gained over 1,100 yards. Brant Coots, the tight end, one of the best out there. And they have this receiver, Devon Bell, number 17. I think they're just they'll overwhelm Florida. And then the humidity.
What's the line in that?
The line is Utah's laying 2.5.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And an underdog going into the swamp.
Yeah. So here's another thing. Normally playing early in the season, a team on the road playing in Gainesville, tough. But remember, they practice at altitude, almost a mile high. And also, it's been in the 80s to low 90s. So not going to feel that much different here. I like Utah here. 31-23.
I say a favorite going into the swamp, not an underdog. But that's interesting that they are a favorite going into the swamp. It's
well, it kind of shows you that people who study it realize Florida made just they're recruiting well, also getting some good offensive defensive linemen.
Them losing to Utah in this opener will help Miami, slow down some of that Gator recruiting momentum. That you're right. I mean, they have built some in the last month, to their credit. But
Florida's got like 40 guys. I think they've got like 40 guys on their staff. They probably have half of them out recruiting each week. So they're one of the few teams that has more than Miami.
All right. And the last game I wanted to ask you about, FSU at LSU.
Yep.
Do the Noles have enough right now to hang on the road against an SEC team?
Going to be tough. Now, at the end of last year, LSU was an absolute mess. But I think the learning curve is going to be pretty steep. I think it's going to happen quickly for LSU. I think look at their coaching staff. I think it's going to be a really – I'm hearing not only are they recruiting, they're teaching very well. And Florida State, they beat Duquesne. I watched the game. I wasn't that impressed. I mean, Duquesne is awful. Now, for LSU, Jaden Daniels will be the starting quarterback. Jaden Daniels comes over, if you remember the name, from Arizona State, one of these 45, 50 transfer quarterbacks that'll start for a new school. 29 career starts. I don't think he's great, but I think he's better than what Florida State has at quarterback. I think he's got a few more skilled players that are better. Think about it. The last couple of years, I mean, Florida State, the running backs and receivers just don't scare you at all. No. Now, Jermaine Johnson probably won the game almost by himself last year against Miami. He's gone. So I just don't see the playmakers here. So I like LSU at home here I'm going to lay the 3 points. I think they win and cover 28-20.
So only a 3-point favorite.
Yep, 3 points.
Interesting. Why is the line so low?
LSU, coming off of, a couple subpar years and new coaching staff maybe, but Florida State, just not a good road team. 6-12 against the spread as a road underdog. Mike Norvell, a lot of pressure on him with Miami and Florida. Looks like rolling right now as far as recruiting. He's got to get to a bowl. He doesn't get to a bowl, I don't think he'll last.
All right, Lee, all good. So tell us a little bit about Paramount Sports and what you've got going to kick off the football season.
So we're off to a good start. 14-4 since the first Hall of Fame game. Yeah, I do bet preseason. There is an edge, I feel, in preseason.
Is there really?
Yeah, I only gave out 2 games the last week when they're playing a lot of 3rd and 4th teamers, but there were some teams playing starters for a half. So usually week 2 they play their starters. There was a couple of teams playing week 3, and week 0 got off to a winning week as far as in week 0 in college football. It's important for me because when I'm watching spring games starting in March and all summer, if I lose week 0, I'm all of a sudden I'm reeling. I'm thinking, did all that studying that I do, did I see things wrong? And when I start off well, usually it snowballs. So I've got confidence. I think there was like 9 games with Division I teams. If I only gave out 4 of them, if I would have given out all 9, I would have won 8 out of 9. So I think that's important. And the one that I lost, New Mexico State was getting, I think they were getting like 8-9 points. They lost by 11 points. They had a 5-0 turnover disadvantage. So I feel really good. Strange things happen. You're going to have games where you turn the ball over a lot, but they want to get involved. Check out the website, ParamountSports.com. Get 4 weeks for $397, the entire season through the Super Bowl, $1,297, 28 out of 29 winning seasons, ParamountSports.com, or call the number. I'll speak to you personally, 800-400-9741.
And what did you do that one season? What happened the 29th season? It
was not a good year. Well, so I had food poisoning for about a week, 10 days, and it just snowballed. It was not
all out of whack.
Yeah,
COVID.
Yeah, I think I did 1 week laying on the ground. I did my phone interviews. It was bad. So hey, everyone has a hiccup.
All right, Lee. Well, we're so excited that you're back for another year with us and looking forward to it every week. He's Lee Sterling, everybody, Paramount Sports. Check him out on his website. Give him a call. He will answer the phone personally. And sign up for a service this year. He might make you a little money along the way. Lee, we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.